So in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a second data validation list where the first value in that list is 1 greater than the value that you pick in the first list. So it's easy to show you here. In this list, we pick a 4. And now in this second data validation list, the first value should be a 5 because it's 1 more than the value that we selected here. And another thing is that the last value has to be equal to the last counter here in our table. So this is a table where we have data 1, a column of data numbers, data 2, another column of numbers, and I've got a formula here that as we add data, let's put a 7 and an 11 here, and now we have 24 values. So this could keep growing. So now in here we should see 5 until 24, and if it shrinks, same thing should happen. It should go backwards. So let's start off with the easy part, which is the first data validation list. So create a name range based on the counter. So this is our counter over here. Currently, it goes all the way down from 1 until 24. We want, and it's just a simple little formula with the row function. And we want this to be inside of here. So let's go to Formulas, Name Manager. We're going to look at our little counter. And it's just this simple syntax where it says equals table 1, because this is our little table. We could have many of them, but it's simply called table 1, which is the default name. And then within these square brackets, we have the name of the column, #A. So if we click this, we'll see what it's referring to, 1 all the way down to 24. And that will grow dynamically as we add more data. So step 2, not that difficult. We just go in here. We go to Data, Data Validation, and within here we just say List, and then we say equals counter. We just attach the name range to our data validation list. So step 3, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. But I'll walk you through all the steps because we need to create a dynamic formula inside of the end data validation. Now, I could do the same thing as in this step, create a name range, but just to show you how it can also work, I'm going to create it directly in here. So here we go back to our data validation list, we put this long formula, and let's now see we have a 4 here, our last value, our last counter is 24. It should, when I click this, it's going to go back to the counter, and it's going to select from 5 all the way down to 24. So now we have, it's dynamic that way, but it's very hard to explain this formula step by step inside of data validation. So I'm going to take this, copy it, then I'm just going to press the X to just sort of escape out of there, click cancel. Now in here, I'm going to paste the formula. Now, you'll note when I press enter, it says value error. That's just because it just can't display everything that's in here. If I highlight the whole thing and I press the F9 key, you see all of the values are in there. So now I'm going to press escape, walk you through all these separate parts. Alright, so we click in here. This is the nice thing about it. We see all the different components or parameters of the offset function. Let's take this and just move it down here. So the first part is, we're seeing here, it's in bold, reference. Where are we starting? Well, we're simply starting in cell A10, which is the column, the column for this particular field, the counter field. Next, we're going to go to rows. It allows us to jump down X number of rows if it's positive, or if it's negative, to go up. So we obviously want to jump down. We want it to start at number 5 because we selected 4 for the start value. So it's going to say, okay, go to H4, which is grab this 4 to be dynamic, plus 1, and then it's going to jump down 5 cells. What's the next part? It's a 0. So we don't want to go to the right or to the left. We're in the correct column, so it's a 0. Now, how many values do we want to pick? So this is the interesting part. We want to say, okay, get the max of the counter. So max of the counter, currently it's set to 24. That could grow, but let's just highlight this and press the F9 key. It says 24. Now I'm going to go and highlight this part, which is just the 4 here from the start value, and I'm going to press the F9 key again. That's a 4. So it's going to be a height of 20, 24 minus 4. So let's just press escape. So now we know it's going to be 20 values, and the width is simply 1. We only want values from one column. So I would say before you paste this formula into data validation, you would highlight the whole thing. And if it's short enough, you can press the F9 key, and if you only have this many results, you can see all of them, which confirms we want it to start at the start value plus 1, which is 4 plus 1, and end at the 24, which is the last number here. So then you would take that formula, go inside to data validation, and say list, and then paste it in here below, and finally you would test it by clicking on this, and it's 5 all the way down to 24, so we know it's working. So that was in fact our last step, step 4. Let's pick something in here, and we'll pick like a 10, and then we see that it highlights, and that's how it works.